Welcome to Season 1, Episode 2 of Hypothetical Questions with The Gray Matters blog. We are beginning the second episode in our new season with our new co-host, Matt Hatter. And today we're going to be discussing hypothetical questions relating to vampires and werewolves. Hatter, are you ready to delve into some gothic horror hypothetical questions?
Constantly, every day, every hour, every minute.
And just so that everyone knows, this is absolutely what being my friend is like. I just randomly ask people hypothetical questions. So you're basically just putting a camera on my daily life as me and him are sitting here BSing about hypothetical questions. That's just what I do.
And I like to just talk about random stuff, so same here.
So our first question is going to be, would you become a vampire if you were given the choice?
Yes.
Now, this is going to be a well, hang on. I might be able to change your mind. Depends on how you feel about your specific powers and weaknesses, because we're going to be specifically talking about a what we might call a cursed vampire or a lower vampire. You know, you're going to get the option of being turned into one of these. And here are your qualifications. You will burn in the sunlight once you are turned into a vampire. And by burn in the sunlight, we mean that a matter of minutes will literally light you on fire. You could probably make a couple of seconds. You know, if you dashed really hard, you might get a sunburn. But if you're maybe a minute and you're going to start igniting, you do have to drink blood, and you are going to have to drink the equivalent of a blood donation's worth of blood, maybe every night. So it's not an insurmountable amount of blood, but you are going to need it. If you skip it, you are going to go into a frenzy. Blood will make you attack people. You have to get that blood. You're also going to have another factor that your bite is going to be somewhat contagious. And here's what we mean by contagious in this context. If you bite someone, they are now a vampire carrier, which means when they die, whether you kill them or whether something else kills them, they will rise again as a vampire. So anyone you feed from, you are creating more vampires potentially, unless they are killed in such a way that their vampiricness will never come into play because they won't be able to rise again, which is where your weaknesses come into play. One, we've already discussed sunlight. Another one is going to be anything that removes your head and anything that pierces through your heart. So a bullet through the heart would put you down, provided it went all the way through your heart and created a sizable hole. So something like a 45 ACP probably could take out a vampire, provided they had a really good shot. But if it's not the heart and it's not the head, it's the sort of thing that's going to heal relatively quickly, including very quickly if you can get a hold of some blood. The one blood donation per day is really just a to keep yourself going. The more you use your powers, the more you will need to feed, and the more you need to heal, the more you will need to feed. For your powers, you are going to have enhanced senses, way better sight, smell, hearing. You could hunt in the absolute darkness. You are going to have the ability of super speed, super strength. We've already discussed your level of resilience. You are going to be able to, say, crawl up a wall kind of spider monkey style. Not necessarily adhering to a completely smooth surface, but if you can dig your extremely strong fingers into it, you're going to be able to move at a very fast speed, even up vertical surfaces. You are going to be what we might call biologically immortal, which means you are never going to die of old age. You will live until something kills you. You are going to sleep during the day. Basically, as soon as the sun comes up, you're going to find it almost impossible to remain conscious. So if someone did come into where you were sleeping during the day, you might be able to rouse yourself enough to protect yourself, but it wouldn't be any guarantee. You are not specifically going to have mind control powers, but you would be able to put someone in a trance by locking eye contact with them to kind of cause them to not fight back. So you won't be able to control them, but you can kind of the classical cobra stare thing that would make them kind of frozen. So, given all of these pros and cons, if you were given the opportunity to turn into this kind of vampire, would you?
Yes.
So, give us your thoughts on that.
Well, first of all, you gave a lot of pretty good dividends here. Biological immortality is pretty great. Healing factor is pretty great. Being able to move up walls is pretty great. And you know what? There's a lot of bad people in the world. And yes, we're going on the Punisher end of this. So, I can do my thing and I'd have an excuse. I'd be like, well, guys got to eat. And yeah, just all of those dividends. I don't go out during the day anyway if I can help it. So yeah, the dividends seem worth it to me.
See, I'm actually on board with you. I think kind of the same thing. I would 100% take these powers. Yes, there are a lot of downsides, but there's so many upsides, and there are so many ways to kind of, well, let's say capitalize on it. For instance, you can make other vampires in this context. So this would mean that you could go to people who are, say, dying or whatever, say, hey, you let me feed on you, then you won't actually die when you die, all that kind of stuff. You have sort of a last ditch emergency healing ability. So that's really cool in a lot of ways. And like you said, there's so many ways to get blood. I mean, on the one hand, yep, you can absolutely find bad people. In the words of the giant killer plant Audrey 2 from Little Shop of Horrors, a lot of folks deserve to die. Um,
Yeah.
but at the same time, that's not even terribly necessary because you just have to find a certain amount of blood. And, there's enough like gothy people out there that would be like, ooh, me, I volunteer for tribute. I'm pretty sure you could work it out.
I gotta tell you, my method would be, yeah, if I can find people who want to serve and worship me, I'll have them. But I'm a yes and kind of guy, so find me some really bad people, lock them up, and just keep harvesting them for blood. And when they're like, "Why are you doing this to us?" Well, because you're a freaking, or you're a creep. You're a
Yeah.
bad person. I'm hungry. This serves two purposes. Clearly, the legal system has failed us with you. I won't.
I do love the idea of vigilante vampire. So we're going to try a slightly different vampire and see if this changes your answer.
All right.
For one, keep that energy with the bad people vampire idea.
Absolutely.
Now, we're talking about you becoming a master vampire. This is going to be a much more powerful vampire. You are now going to have the ability to hypnotize people, kind of Jedi mind tricks. You can't completely control them, but you can fool them. You can get them to do the things you want them to do. We're also going to be talking about shapeshifting. You can turn into a bat, turn into a wolf, turn into mist. You are still vulnerable to sunlight, but much less so. If you're out in sunlight for a long period of time, you're going to start experiencing bad sunburn. But even if you stayed out all day, you would feel very weak. You wouldn't feel very good. But it would be like someone getting a really bad sunburn. It wouldn't be good for you, but you could probably do it if you absolutely had to. Enough sunscreen and like heavy clothing would probably be enough to protect you. You are going to be incredibly strong, incredibly fast. You are going to be able to fly. You are going to be able, as far as handling damage, to literally the only way they are going to kill you is to remove your head from your body. Even piercing your heart is only going to paralyze you. If it's just a bullet, it'll probably only knock you down for a second until it can heal. You will be paralyzed briefly, but if it doesn't stay through your heart, you're not going down permanently. And even if they do classically stake you through the heart, as soon as that comes out, you're back. So this is only going to keep you paralyzed as long as it is through your heart. You're also going to be biologically immortal, and you can create people who are your kind of subservient vampires. You will actually be able to create a vampire who is more like the first type of vampire we discussed by biting them and drinking their blood and giving them some of yours, and they will be inclined to serve you. Now, you don't have to enforce that. They will be subject to your will, but you have the option of not making them obey you. Here are our biggest caveats and our biggest weaknesses. One, and probably the most important one, you need to drink an entire human completely dry once a week. That means they are not going to survive this. There is no way for them to survive this. You have to take a human life once a week. The other caveat here is going to be you are vulnerable to some extent to some of the more folkloric defenses against vampires. So garlic is not necessarily going to harm you. It's not poisonous, but it will sort of repel you. Crosses aren't necessarily holy symbols, aren't going to do anything really, but something like silver again would give you kind of a rash, would help repel you. It's sort of an allergy kind of thing. If it was introduced into your bloodstream, you wouldn't feel very good. So you are vulnerable. Wild rose is the sort of thing that will give you like really bad allergies and hay fever. So you are vulnerable to a lot of the more folkloric vulnerabilities of vampires. But the biggest one is that you do have to kill in order to maintain your power. Again, the more you have to heal, the more you use your powers, the more blood you're going to need. This is just the bare minimum to stay alive. Would you take the deal? Do you become a master vampire?
Questions. First and
Absolutely.
foremost, do I need to? It has to be all from one person. I can't just take the amount of blood that would add up to one person, right?
Nope, it has to be all from one person, all in one feeding. Now, unlike the previous vampire, you don't have bloodlust. You could choose to sit there and starve to death if you wanted, and you could just sit there and meditate like one of those monks who used to mummify themselves, which is a weird story. But Yeah, you don't have bloodlust. You can take it or leave it, but you have to have it in order to survive. And it has to be all. I mean, you are sort of consuming their life force along with the blood, so they have to die
And this is once a week.
once per week.
Hmm. See, that's the challenging part. Is I know if I'm the only vampire, I mean, I assume there are other ones, but like if it's not a super common thing, I can find enough bad people to feed me for a good few hundred years. It seems like kind of a pain, but in the same way, you have to eat every day as a human being at least. You don't have to catch it, but you do have to eat it. So it comes out about the same. Like a human being is easier to trick and catch than like let's say a deer. So let's see. I think yes. I think yes because yeah, I find people every day that I think, "Wow, I hate this person." Now, I would have to sit down and very carefully weigh the options each week. Vet the people I'm going to feed on, make sure that they actually deserve it. But I still have to say yes. Again, those dividends are pretty great.
See, I'm kind of the same way. The powers are just so amazing. The fact that you could have people that could help serve you. I would not invoke my will on them, but it would be nice to know that I could use that in the most extreme scenarios just to keep them from doing anything really horrible. That's the only time I would use it. I'm very big on respecting people's autonomy and not invoking my will on them. Um but I would absolutely go for making me kind of other vampires to help me out. Again, people who might be really happy to become a vampire and not die or have a chronic illness or whatever. And the major problem here, of course, is going to be finding one person a week who you feel comfortable taking out of the gene pool. But here's my thing. I'm going to dedicate like my entire social network, all my vampire powers are going to be dedicated to actually I'm going to use my vampire mind tricks to get people to tell me if they have done bad horrible things or whatever. And I'm going to essentially start a vampire gitmo where I'm going to gather these people and start warehousing so that whenever I need, I just go down to the cupboard, take out a drug dealer, it's be fine. Hey, do you feel like having Italian for dinner? Pull out a mobster. Whatever we need to do. I don't really think it would be that hard other than the initial setup. But again, I'm a master vampire. I got all kinds of powers. I'm pretty sure I could figure out a way to do it. Now, of course, I would consider myself a vampire vegan. I only eat ethically sourced bad guys and would definitely be like a Punisher vibe. Now, 100% could someone else looking at me say, hey, he's playing God. You're deciding who's a good person, who's a bad person, and who lives or dies. And my only response to that is, yeah, yeah,
Yeah.
absolutely. That is what I am doing here, and I would 100% do that. Which may be why it's a good thing I'm not given ultimate vampire-like powers, but that is definitely the direction I would go. Whether that's a good thing or not, that'll be for the scholars of future ages to debate.
Yeah, my attitude on it would be similar. It'd be like, again, yeah, that's what's happening. Well, what gives you the right? Nothing. Just hungry. Don't care.
Yeah.
I'm much more chaotic.
Well, there's a line that I've never found the right story to put it in. I've always wanted to find a place to work it in, but the idea of a character, someone saying, why are you doing this? And him saying, well, I sat and I thought about it one day and realized that the main reason people do bad things is because no one can stop them. That they have motivations, but the main reason is just because no one can stop them. So I decided, what if I did something good and there was no one who could stop me?
The best part of this plan is no one can stop me. Had to do it.
That's all. So, like I said, I think we're of the same mind. So we would both definitely become vampires no matter what kind of vampire we became. So I think we need to make a pact now that if either of us becomes the master vampire, we have to make sure to embrace the other one so we can both be vampires. Are you ready for this deal?
Oh yeah, and let me ask: if I were to get initiated as a regular low class vampire, I could rise through the ranks, right?
Well, You could definitely become an important, powerful vampire. I don't know that I originally envisioned the lower class vampires being able to become master vampires, but why not? That's certainly present in most vampire media. There's usually, as vampires get older, they become more powerful. So, you know what? I'm going to say sure. Even if you begin as a low level bestial vampire, that you'll definitely be able to eventually become a master vampire.
Okay, I'm fine with it then. I mean, you have an unlimited amount of time so long as you don't go out in the sun to make that happen. So yeah, why not?
All right, now we're going to shift gears slightly and we're going to start discussing werewolves. Now, here's going to be our first, again, we're starting with a low level werewolf, a cursed werewolf. You are going to be a werewolf. You only turn into your werewolf form during the full moon. You cannot assume it at will. Now, all day, every day, again, you're faster, you're stronger, you're resilient. You're not as resilient as the vampire is when you're in your normal form. You're going to heal fast, but you're not literally going to just snap a broken arm back into place. You're going to heal faster than a human, but not in such a way that if you were in hospital, they would turn you over to the government. If you were in hospital, they go, wow, this dude's just really healthy and healing very well and doesn't need any antibiotics. It's going to be the kind of thing that's really nice, but not crazy superhuman in your normal form. Now, when you are a werewolf, when you are in your wolf form, and it's going to be kind of the shaggy, Lon Chaney, wolf man type form. So you're not like a literal wolf. You're not the 9 foot tall wolf man killing machine. You are a what we would call in White Wolf werewolves, Werewolf the Apocalypse, your hominid form, or no, not hominid form. What we would call in White Wolf, Werewolf the Apocalypse, your near human form, the kind of again the Lon Chaney shaggy wolfman. And in that form, basically, if it's not silver, it doesn't kill you. We can drop a car on you. You can be turned into paste. You'll reform. I mean, if they technically atomize you into a fine red mist, that would probably kill you, but it's going to have to be a fine red mist. But basically, if it's not silver, you don't die.
Okay.
When you're in your full war form, you are a curse on the world around you. You're not easy to get rid of. Now, the silver weapons, they function just like normal weapons. So even if I stab you with a silver knife, say in the arm, that's going to injure your arm, but you're not poisoned by it. It just means that you don't heal from that. So they would still have to strike a lethal blow on you in order to kill you. Now, you are going to again be functionally immortal. You are not going to age, or you're going to be very healthy, very regenerative. Now, when you are in your normal form, now when you are in your Wolfman form, you are going to be mindless. Now, you are not going to be necessarily violent. You are actually going to have the mentality of an animal. So that means if something threatens you, if something scares you, you will attack. You are going to be kind of like an aggressive wild animal, but an animal. If you're sitting there chewing on your steak and someone just happens to walk by, you don't have any motivation. You're not worried they're going to take your steak from you. You're just going to keep chewing on your steak. If you're not hungry and you're warm and cozy by the fire, you're going to keep sitting by the fire. You don't necessarily want to hurt people. However, every time you change, you will burn a lot of calories. So you are going to be motivated to eat whatever's in the vicinity. And if that happens to be a human, you're not going to discriminate because, again, it's not going to be your mind. So you are going to change 3 nights out of the month. So it's kind of the entire spectrum of the full moon.
Okay.
So for 3 nights, and it is only at night, you will turn with the rising of the moon and turn back with the setting of the moon. And basically, and it doesn't matter if the moon is visible in the sky, it's more for when it's over the horizon. So even if it's overcast, that's not really going to help you. You're still going to transform during the night of the full moons, again, the 3 nights. Now, you are going to be very strong, way stronger than you are whenever you're in your normal form. You're going to be very fast, but you're not going to be like Superman strong, Superman fast. So you would be able to kind of contain yourself. So that does mean you would be able to, say, leave yourself out in the woods somewhere. You would be able to build a bunker, whatever. You would be able to contain yourself. But basically, you're going to have amazing power while you're a wolf man and some pretty decent kind of super soldier package type powers when you're not. And for one final caveat, you are going to have an infectious bite. Only when you're in wolfman form. When you're in wolfman form, if you bite someone, they now have the same curse as you. Would you take this deal? Would you become a wolfman?
Well, I'll tell you this, in my human form, I tend not to bite people very often, so, that wouldn't be an issue anyway. Um, as for this, here's where the challenge comes in. Like you said, I'd be feral if I was hungry. So I'd have to kind of warn the people who live with me, leave a lot of food out when we have a half moon or a full moon, because if not, you're going to be in a lot of trouble. And I feel like after a while, if nobody killed me, like the whole neighborhood would be like, yeah, just leave some steak outs. Yeah, that's Mr. Hatter. He's a werewolf. It's a whole thing. Um, but if I could make the proper preparations for it and make the chances minimal that I might hurt somebody that I care about or just an innocent person, I'd probably go for it. The healing factor sounds good. The Wolf Knight thing seems like if you prepare properly for it, it's just kind of an inconvenience.
See, and this is actually the first one where I'm going to diverge from you. I don't think I would take this one. I do want it. Don't get me wrong. I'm tempted, but just it requires so much planning where you have to every month you have to make this like foolproof plan, and plans can always go wrong. Something can always happen. You're not near your bunker or your cabin in the woods. That's actually one of the ways I would probably try to do it, is find the most remote place I possibly could. Basically, this seems like a logistical nightmare, and you would need a lot of money in order to be a werewolf. It just seems like being a werewolf would be very expensive. And while the powers are really cool, they're not like as quite as monetizable, you might say, as vampire powers. Because the vampire powers are very usable in our modern world, whereas the werewolf powers here, they're nice, but they're not quite as useful, and especially not as good at making the money that you would then need to use. If nothing else, think about how much it would cost to feed you. So I'm probably going to pass on this werewolf.
Well, I beg to differ because there are ways to make money off of this. First of all, you said you're very difficult, even in your human form, to damage and you heal quickly, right? Go
Yes.
to go to a good bar and take bets. Like I bet you can hit me in the head with that beer bottle and I'll be just fine. And then people will pay you
Actually,
$25 each to do that. I promise.
for one, now I want this movie where a guy who's a werewolf like this goes around to bars and challenges guys to fist fights, hey, I bet you can't knock me down, kind of thing. And then he gets involved in an illegal fighting ring and it's a whole thing. Like I said, I love this idea. I mean, that would be super cool.
Yeah, instead of Fight Club, you have Nightclub.
I love the idea. He's kind of in the underground fight club. He meets a vampire who has the same idea. They actually have to fight each other. Then they start training together. It turns into a romantic comedy. I love it.
There you go. But yeah,
So that's our different takes on it. I definitely don't think I would take it. Hatter definitely would. Let us know in the comments which side you're on. Would you take of course, now also let us know whether you would take the vampire powers, but would you take this particular cursed werewolf? Now, Hatter, are you ready for another werewolf concept? So here is our next werewolf that we're going to see if you would willingly become, and we might call this a higher werewolf. I'm not going to say alpha werewolf. That gets weird. We're not in the alpha omega universe. We're not doing that. That's just bizarre, and I don't want anyone writing impreg fanfic about us, so we're not going into the omega verse.
I don't think I want to know what that is. Continue.
Yeah, don't worry. You do not want to know what that is. For all the people out there who might be listening who do, just chuckle and we'll just move on.
Listen, I've learned over my time on the internet when somebody says you don't want to know, it's actually true, and I'm able to quash my inquisitive nature on some things. Anyway, go ahead.
So, you're going to be a werewolf. Now, you are going to be a very different kind of werewolf here. During the full moon, you are going to change involuntarily, but you do not lose your mind. You maintain your mind the entire time. Now, you might have some wolfier drives. If something runs, you might really want to chase it. You are definitely, again, going to be hungry. You're going to change and then need those calories, but you still maintain your personality, your mind, all of that stuff. Now, you not only now have your Lon Chaney form, just as we discussed before, you now get kind of, again, this will seem very familiar to anyone who's familiar with White Wolf and Werewolf the Apocalypse. You get the full spread of forms. So you get human form. You get the near human form. This is the Lon Chaney one we discussed. You get a 9-foot tall man beast form with giant muscles, claws, the head of a wolf, the giant man wolf form. You get a dire wolf form, which looks just like a wolf, only larger. It's going to be kind of the size of like a pony. It's going to be just a small horse, very large wolf. And you're also going to be able to turn into an actual natural wolf. And you can change to any of these at will. Now, anytime you change, it is going to burn calories. So you are going to be very hungry. So the more you change, the more you're going to need to eat. You're also going to have a couple of other powers too. One, your healing factor does not care what form you're in. It's not quite as extreme as the cursed werewolf. If something takes your head completely off your shoulders, you are going to die. Anything beyond that, you're going to be fine as long as it's not silver. And it theoretically, if something completely crushed your, basically, if anything destroys your brain, the entire essence of your being, it will take you out. But against now silver, exactly like a normal human, bullet depends on where it hits you, all that kind of stuff. So you're still vulnerable to silver. Speed and strength, you are going to be as strong and as fast as that master vampire we were talking about. And in your wolf form, you're going to be even stronger. And by that I mean the man wolf form, your 9 foot tall killing machine form. That is by far going to be the fastest, the strongest thing we are discussing. That is going to be the fastest, strongest thing in this entire world. And you are going to have just enormous amounts of physical power. You are also going to have what we're going to call animal magnetism. Whenever people see you, they are going to be weirdly influenced by you. Now, it depends on the person, how they respond to a powerful, dominant style person. It may be that they're intimidated by you and don't want to be around you and are nervous around you. They're possibly afraid of you. It may be they're attracted to you, either in a romantic or non romantic way. It may just be like, man, that dude is so cool. I want to be his friend. Or it might want to be, hey, I want to jump their bones. It depends entirely on how they would respond in the given situation, given who you are and who they are. And that's going to, again, be in any form. If even if you're in full wolf form, they're going to be just absolutely awed by your magnificence. You're going to be the prettiest wolf they ever saw in their life. The only real major caveat here is going to be that people are going to be aware that werewolves exist. Because overall, this is actually mostly positive. I mean, yeah, you have some vulnerabilities, but a silver bullet kills everyone, so it doesn't really matter. But werewolves will become knowledge. Now, not necessarily common knowledge. Everyone isn't necessarily going to know they exist, but there will be people who know. Now, there will be people who want to offer you a job, people who want you to be a mascot. There's going to be people who are going to want to experiment on you. There's going to be people who are going to want to eradicate you. You will also not exactly be able to pass this on in the traditional way of a curse. Your bite is no longer contagious. You have to pass this on in the traditional way by having children. Now, your children will be werewolves like you. Again, you're also biologically immortal. You're immortal in a lot of definitions of the world, even though you're not completely invulnerable. And there will be people who will be in on this. Now, some of them may try to tell everyone. Some of them are going to try to keep it a secret. So, how common knowledge this is will kind of depend on how it unfolds. So, there will be people who know what you are. Given all of these caveats and powers and weaknesses, would you want to become a master werewolf?
Yeah, this one seems like even more of a no-brainer. Yeah, in a heartbeat. I mean, I'm in control of it. I got all these dividends. Not being able to spread it to other people, I'm fine with that. I'm fine with me being the only one, and they don't ever plan on having children anyway, so that is not an issue for me. Yeah, in a heartbeat, I could win more bar bets. I'm already going on about all the things I could do to make money off of this and get personal gain. But yeah, yes, final answer, no thinking.
And I also agree because while, again, the only major caveat here is the fact that you're going to have people know what you are. And of course, they're going to want to try to exploit you. But that's really just a matter of clever usage, making sure you find the right people. I think that that's totally manageable. So I am also definitely going to take this. Really, this was made really attractive for a reason because now we're going to move on to a head to head question. You are going to be turned into either a vampire or a werewolf. First thing we're going to discuss is our two cursed versions. You don't get to choose whether you want to be transformed. I'm going to turn you into something. So you don't get to remain a human. But you are either going to be turned into the lesser vampire we just were discussing or the lesser werewolf we were discussing. Which one would you pick?
I'm gonna go for vampire because I just think they're cooler. I mean, you get better dividends with the werewolf. It seems like you get more easy to use powers. You don't have as many weaknesses. It's really just silver. But still, the vampire's cooler. Got to go with that.
See, and specifically since we are discussing the lesser versions, the cursed versions, I didn't even want to pick the werewolf, so I'm going vampire all the way. And I do feel like even our lesser vampire is highly useful. It's going to give you a lot of powers that are going to be very useful and applicable in our real world. So I'm going vampire all the way. Now, same thing head to head. Do you choose to be a master vampire or a master werewolf? Well, or a master vampire or a greater werewolf, we might call it.
See, here's where the challenge comes in between these two. The werewolf, in this case, is objectively better. You get better dividends. You get the biological immortality. You get biological immortality, right?
Correct, with both.
So you get some pretty great dividends with both. It seems like with the vampire, you have that one little thing that you have to feed on someone once a week.
And the major downside to being the werewolf, again, is that people will know you're a werewolf. If you're a vampire, nobody knows you're a vampire. You can remain secret. If you're a werewolf, people are going to know. That's the big difference.
And see, on the one hand, as the vampire, I can do my civic duty and take care of some bad people once a week. As a werewolf, I can still do that, but am I gonna? Some weeks I'm just gonna be like, nah, I'm just gonna go to Mighty Taco. So, you know what? What worries me about the vampire thing is that I might not be able to find somebody who deserves it, and I may have to feed on someone who doesn't deserve it. And my sense of self preservation is gonna preclude me from not doing what I have to do. So, yeah, I'm gonna go with the werewolf just because it seems like it's not quite easy mode, but easier. Like, you got to deal with people coming after you. Yeah, I don't want to show you my collection of sporting equipment, but I think I'd be okay.
And I'm actually going to go the other direction, and I'm picking vampire all the way. Because, again, like I said, yes, it's going to be very difficult in order to kind of set up the system through which I will feed on people, but I feel very confident that I can do that. And for me, the big difference, the power that I really want as a vampire that I think makes the big difference is the mind control type powers, is the mind reading type powers, that kind of thing. I feel that that is superior enough and would allow me to achieve those goals enough that that sounds really good to me, and I would really rather no one know that I am a powerful supernatural creature. And of course, just vampires are cool. So I'm going to go vampire all the way, which means you're going to be a werewolf. I'm going to be a vampire. We can totally corner the market on all the underworld shit in the entire world forever now.
I can tell you this too. Great job in this particular hypothetical. Great job to have prison guard. Careful with what you do. They disappear. People are like, oh my god, they got out. Everybody looks for them for a while. They find their body somewhere. I'm gonna guess as a vampire, you have some ability to conceal your biological. What's the word? I don't want not DNA, but I'm gonna assume that that your DNA is gonna be fundamentally changed, and people are gonna be like,
Oh,
who the heck is this? And whatever you have on file, it's not gonna match.
another job, I actually had a friend, I won't name because of this is a weird context, but a friend of mine had the perfect job for this. He worked for parole officers. He was actually like an administrative assistant, but he worked for parole officers and saw all the files on all these people who were on parole. And like most of these people are absolutely horrible and did like things I don't even want to discuss on TikTok or YouTube, although technically we're on YouTube, not TikTok, but I don't really want to mention it on either of those anyway. But just a lot of the people. Well, let's just say, are you familiar with the whole wood chipper meme thing?
It sounds familiar. Refresh my memory.
Just that a certain class of criminal who have done a certain thing to a certain group of people should be fed into wood chippers.
Oh, people who
That
steal
class of
kids' ice
people.
cream.
Yeah, sort of. We could call it that. Let's not. Let's move on. But yeah, that there's those people out there that, yeah, I would feel and they're all on a bit. They literally make a whole list for you. So I'm just saying, it wouldn't be that hard to find someone who needed to be donated to the blood cause.
Yeah, and in all seriousness, I joke, but I'm totally fine with you doing what you're doing to that class of people because there's a two classes of people exactly that I believe deserve no kind of pity or mercy. And I'm not going to say who they are, but that's one of them. You know what? I don't want
And
people to think that like I'm bigoted or anything. The other one is people you might have seen in Germany in the 30s.
yeah, what's really funny is I've always said the really cool thing about the German followers of the Mustache Man is that no matter what happens, it's always acceptable to depict killing them in video games. It's like back, especially back when people were really worried about violence in video games. The video games that could get away with it are the ones that were killing aliens, the ones that were killing robots, the ones that were killing zombies, and the ones that were killing those people. So you could always get away with that. That was always okay. Nobody would say anything.
Yeah.
I love Wolfenstein, by the way. That is a great Wolfenstein is a great video game.
Did you play the newer ones?
Yes. Well, okay, most of the newer ones I played up to. I don't think I ever played New Colossus. I played the ones before that.
Yeah, I played everything up to the one where it's like years later and it's Blazkowicz's kids. The first two. I played the first two.
I played all the ones with Blazkowicz in them, and they were fantastic. I loved them.
Big fan. But yeah, I'm sure you could find no limit to we'll say mustache fans, we'll say bad people, we'll just call them bad people. People know who we're talking about. I'm sure you could find no limit doing a job where you're working for parole, and especially if you're working for parole, because those are the ones who got out, and you could say, this guy should probably not be on the streets. I could take care of that.
Yeah, this is public safety. So, like I said, I'm definitely going vampire all the way. I definitely see going werewolf though, because especially in this particular scenario, that's a really nice type of werewolf to be. So I definitely get it both ways. Now, for kind of our final wrap up question is in the same world. Now, this is a world where let's say all four of these classes of supernatural creature exist. And you are going to be a hunter of supernatural creatures. Now, specifically, you are a maintainer of peace and law. Basically, you don't go bothering vampires and werewolves who aren't bothering anyone else. You're just leave them alone, but it's the ones who are causing a problem, the ones who are hurting people they shouldn't be hurting, the ones who are endangering secrecy or whatever. The ones who are causing problems are the ones you go after. Now, do you choose to go after vampires? Again, both classes of vampire exist. Or do you choose to go after werewolves? Now, it's sort of like what's your specialization? It's not like the other class isn't going to be being taken care of. Some other hunter will go after whichever group you don't go after. So it's not that they're not being policed. So, do you choose to police the vampires or the werewolves? And the major caveat here is you are going to have access to pretty much all human technology, equipment, weaponry. You're going to have kind of paramilitary funding and availability. So you'll be able to lay your hands on like armored cars, armor piercing ammunition, fully automatic weapons, even some low key explosives. You're not necessarily going to have like a Tomahawk cruise missile, but you'll definitely be able to scrape up some Simtech or C4. So you're going to be operating with at least paramilitary style equipment. Do you choose to hunt vampires or werewolves?
My answer to that, I was thinking about it while you were asking, taking account of all of your little caveats and stuff, because that's a tough one. That is a tough one. But I feel like I could deal with vampires a little better than I could werewolves, because werewolves are going to be a heck of a lot physically faster, and that's going to be my weakness. I'm not fast, but I am quick mentally, and I have fast reflexes. So I think with a vampire, for example, they have mind control. I'm going to tell you something right now. I am what's the word I'm looking for here? Petty. I am I have such a high level of pettiness in me that if a vampire said, "Get out of my house," I'd be like, "Okay." And I would stand outside in the yard for a while and they'd be like, "I told you to get out of my house. I'm not in your house. You're going to have to come out sometime. Leave my property." Well, you can't own the grass. You can't own the dirt. And I have a feeling like mind control, they would just all be so annoyed by me. And to me, that's better than being able to actually take them out.
Okay, so what I'm hearing from you is you're going to be fighting vampiric mind control with the I'm not touching you method. I really kind of love that.
That's exactly what I'm going to do. And it'll be to a point where, like, some vampires overstepping his bounds, the commission's going to send Hatter. Oh God, not again. Last time he didn't leave my yard for a week, he set up a tent!
So, again, I'm going to differ slightly, but weirdly, kind of for similar reasons, just in the opposite direction, is I'm going to go after werewolves. And the main reason I'm going to go after werewolves is the one very specific thing you mentioned is mind control. I just don't want to jack with that. I think that that's going to be something that's going to give me a lot more problems. So as long as it's just a straight physical threat and I have access to paramilitary grade equipment, I think the werewolves are going to be very shocked at my creativity. We're talking silver laced pipe bombs. I mean, just the good old fashioned silver 30-06 from 200 yards. It's not possible to dodge a bullet coming at you from literally beyond your range to sense it. And while werewolves, of course, do have enhanced senses, their circle of awareness cannot be hundreds of yards in all directions at all times. They cannot perceive that much. So even though, yes, they could see you if they think to look for you, they're not going to see you from that far away. I mean, we could come up with all sorts of creative ways to take them out. Did you see the thing in the Syrian civil war where they created basically cannons that fired propane bottles filled with explosives?
No, but do tell more.
Basically, yeah, they mounted it on a truck and they were launching like you hook up to your barbecue pit, a big propane bottle, and they were launching them like a good mile to bombard buildings. Some fantastic improvised weaponry here, and if necessary, that can be used to take out a werewolf infestation. So I feel like my ingenuity, my creativity will work here. It's like I won't name the intelligence organization just because some people are weird about this at the time, but we'll just say that there are certain groups who have put explosives into various electronic devices and use them to take out certain groups of people. Um, and that you add some silver nails mixed in with your Simtex, and that would be a really great way to take out a werewolf. He goes to pick up his cell phone and his head explodes. That could work very well. So I'm pretty sure my creativity could match the werewolf. So I'm going werewolf hunter myself.
So
All
first
right.
of all, on the subject of the propane, Hank Hill, I'm sure he's pretty happy about that. As for there's one more thing I want to add to my whole mind control thing, because if a vampire told me end yourself, why do I always give him the accent? It says end yourself. Just light up a smoke. What are you doing? I'm ending myself. I'm just doing it very, very slowly. Like they would hate me, and it would be so much fun. But
You said end yourself. You did not give me a speed or a time frame. I'm working on my own schedule.
exactly. I know there'd be one vampire out there who would respect me for it and probably think I'm pretty funny, but yeah, for the most part, I would annoy them if they tried to mind control me. As for werewolves, yeah, there's a lot of ways that if I chose werewolf stuff, like you were saying, I get very creative with stuff like that. I'm going for the one I'm going to have more fun with. I'll be honest.
That's awesome. And yet, once again, I think we would make an excellent team.
And we switch off sometime. So when you go into if we switch places at one point. So when you go into we'll call him Vince. When you go into Vince's lair, have a pack of cigarettes on you. Why? Is he weak to cigarettes or something? No, because he's definitely going to try to mind control you and tell you to end yourself. You light a cigarette, technically you're doing it. It drives him nuts. He hates it.
Whereas I'm going to hand you a big bag of stuff that looks like it came from the hardware store in Radio Shack and tell you you have werewolves that direction, get creative.
And of course, my reaction will be.
Which I know from our discussion on our other show, Liminal Radio, horror podcast, by the way, also on YouTube. Check that out. But I know that you haven't seen the movie Tremors. But as one thing that they do in Tremors 2 is they take a RC car, so a little remote control car, pack it full of explosives. In this case, they literally just stick a stick of dynamite on it and then have it eaten by the monsters. And I feel like there's something we could do with that with werewolves. I'm not quite sure what the details are, but I love the idea of just chasing a werewolf around with a little RC car with explosives and him just running for his life. I love the image.
How quickly does a werewolf eat? Are they scarfers?
I think that would kind of depend on the werewolf in question. Some might eat very delicately, some might, just
So let's say you got a werewolf that's a scarfer. You get some C4 and put a detonator in there, and then just put little things of C4. Wire it real good. It swallows the thing whole. I saw a cat. You hit the button. Boom. Hello, cat.
hey, my cat would make an excellent werewolf hunting companion.
Unless he runs away like that. But yeah, I get your idea.
So, thank you everyone for joining us on season 1, episode 2 of the Hypothetical Questions with the Gray Matters blog. Once again, I want to thank Hatter for joining us, and everyone, make sure that you like and subscribe, help us support the channel because we're really trying to grow it. Also, make sure to check out Save Awesome Studios. That's Hatter's channel. Make sure everything is linked below. And be sure to let us all know what your answers to all the hypothetical questions. Would you be a vampire, a werewolf, which kind, and which one would you choose to hunt? So once again, thank you for joining us on Season 1, Episode 2 of Hypothetical Questions.
I hunt, therefore I am. One sec. One sec.
Oh, hey, I saw it that time.
Come here. Come here. It's not a moth. It's one of those stupid shield bugs. All year round, these things are... Okay, it got away. All right, so one sec. Which am I going to pick?